What is up, guys? It's Dudu Poker here, back for another video. Today we are going to be talking about how to play 3-bet pots against the triple barrel line when in position. I have a hand, I have MDA, we have the solver, so let's get into it. I have pocket nines, 9 of clubs, 9 of hearts, and the cutoff, I RFI. My opponent, who is a reg, in the big blind, 3 bets, and we take a flop. The flop comes Jack of diamonds, 6 of spades, 5 of spades. Let's follow along here. In game, my opponent went 11. Here, in the smaller setting, it's 10.5. And I call with my pocket nines. Another flop comes Jack of diamonds, 6 of spades, 5 of spades. We know from theory the solver does prefer to go 50% pot with its c-bet sizing. Now, my opponent does not do this. My opponent goes smaller. He goes around 30% pot. So what I'm going to do is go into GTO Wizard Elite and node lock his sizing. I'm going to node lock it to 30%. So when he goes 30%, I have my pocket nines, nothing to do but call. Now on the turn, we pick up a gut shot, and my opponent double barrels. But we want to look at MDA for the flop and the turn before we continue. This is flop MDA for field as 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop raiser. What do you guys notice? You notice that the c-bet frequencies are not in line to GTO. GTO is going 60 to 70, but population is going 73. So what we know is we know that they over c-bet. That's the first thing to note. On the turn, we want to look at double barrel frequencies. Now in double barrel frequencies, we see when they bet 30 on the flop and they bet turn, they are on the high side of GTO or actually overdoing it. Now if they go bet 50, they're right in line, but we know when they bet 30, they are over barreling turn. Now my opponent here bets 46 into 73. Let's do the math. 46 into 73. We see he double barreled 63% of the pot. Now what we do here is we do edit actions and we go to 63%, and then we update the node, and we see that cutoff is mostly calling with nines, but we know that they over barrel, so we should be always calling with nines. We also know how to play rivers, which means we can play all the mixed hands as pure calls. So we call and we take a river. On the river, a 5 of hearts comes, and my opponent goes all in. Let's follow along on the solver. 5 of hearts. My opponent goes all in, and now I have a decision. My decision is between calling and folding. A solver, let's look at my exact combo. I have 9 of clubs, 9 of hearts. A solver would basically almost always fold and low frequency call. We can do a lot better than the RNGing on the river and mostly folding. What we need to do is we need to look at MDA and look at the sizing structure and see what MDA says about population tendencies. So let's take a peek at blinds versus cutoff, 3-bet pot at a position pre-flop raiser, bet, bet, bet. Bet 30, it doesn't have turn sizing, but we have the flop sizing and the river sizing. In game, he went, let's see what he went, 144 into 165, 144 into 165. We see he went around 87%. Let's look at the data. What do you notice from the data? Remember, the light blue is GTO and the red is underbluffed. Surprisingly, this is a very GTO-ish line, which means we cannot learn anything from the sizing. So that means we have to go deeper into the filters. I'm going to pull up MDA hand-to-note filters for blinds, 3-bet out of the blinds versus the cutoff in the bet 30 bet bet. Remember, the board was Jack 6-5, 7-5. Let's go take a look at flop population data. In the triple barrel line on a bet 30 on the flop, we see the aggregate is 29 week. What do you notice about flops? You notice that ace high flops are the least bluffed, which means they're the strongest, only 23 week compared to 29 week. As we start going down, the king high flop is now more bluffed than the ace high flop. And if we keep going down to the bottom, which is 9 high flop or less, we see that's 36 week. So they go down linearly. If we take a peek at jack high, we see it's 31 week, and we see the aggregate is 29 weeks. So that is a good data point to call. Let's look at some more data. We also see the pair on the river. Now the pair on the river is interesting. If we look at data for river paired on middle low on the river, we see 32 week. Let's compare that to river paired on middle low before the river, 30 week. So that's a pattern. Let's look at another spot. River paired on middle low on a lower board, 42. River paired before, 35 week. Same pattern on the ace high boards as well. River paired on middle on the river, 23, before 20. So when the pair is on the river, it is a weaker line. If the pair was on the turn, it'd be a stronger line. So a jack 6-5, 5-7 is stronger than a jack 6-5, 7-5. That's another data point. Let's also look at the deviations. Let's look at the deviations. Here are the deviations. What do we notice? We notice river busted flush draw on a two-tone board bluffs 3% more than average, which is another good data point. So I'm going to write all these data points down, and we're going to go over them. First point, look at the flop. The flop was jack high. Jack high is 31 week, and the aggregate's 29 week, so that's a good data point to call down. Point number 2, the pair on the turn is always stronger than the pair on the river in triple barrel lines. Like I said earlier, jack 6-5, 7-5 is weaker than jack 6-5, 5-7. Now, the third point, which we looked at, is the busted flush draw on the two-tone boards. That's bluffed 3% more than the aggregate. So 3 good data points to call down in a 0 EV bluff catch spot. Now, there is one bad data point, which is he did 3-bet from the big blind as opposed to the small blind. We know the small blind has 2 to 3% more bluffs because of pre-flop. Population is not finding the GTO percentage from the big blind. They're only going 11% versus 14% in theory. So what that means is big blind triple barrels will be slightly stronger than small blind triple barrels. Let's go back to the original hand. We know it's a 0 EV spot. We have 3 good data points that make us want to call and 1 bad data point because he's in the big blind. We take all that into consideration when he jams all in, and we make the call. If you enjoyed this type of video and this type of content, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. New video every single day, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.